Hello, everyone. We are live with our buddies at Glyf and Design Buddies. We also have a wonderful 3D design challenge with you to share with you today. And then during this workshop, you'll learn how to make your own 3D art very fast with our buddies from Glyf. We also have a design challenge going on, and the deadline is March 11th. And for anyone who submits, you'll get a chance to be showcased at the IDEO office in San Francisco. And before we get started, there is a slight delay between what you see on live and LinkedIn. So just be cognizant of that. And before we get started, I want to take some time for everyone to chime in. Where y'all from, and what is your biggest design inspiration? And let me just double check to see my LinkedIn. Jahel and Rishi, where y'all from, and what is your biggest design inspiration?
Yeah, thanks, Grace. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I would say my biggest design inspiration would be my mom, who was a design professor growing up and also worked at a lot of art museums. She was an awesome graphic designer, illustrator, and design thinking teacher and enthusiast. So she definitely takes it from me.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Rishi. I'm from Chicago. I'd say one of my biggest design inspirations is probably some of the original teams behind the Pixar movies. I just thought it was really interesting how much engineering and design work they put in to craft such beautiful stories.
Awesome. Cool. I am from San Francisco. Well, I'm from Cupertino originally, but I'm based in San Francisco. I'm in this little cozy WeWork phone booth right now. So that's where I'm tuning in from. And my biggest design inspiration is MapleStory, a wholesome game. And I see a bunch of people tuning in on LinkedIn. So hello, LinkedIn buddies. Yeah, let's get started. Would love to know where y'all are from in the chat and what is your biggest design inspiration. So if you guys are new, I'm Grace. I'm the founder of Design Buddies. I created Design Buddies back in April 2020. Wanted to make some design friends, and here we are today with a large audience. And we do a lot. Our goal is to help designers level up in the career. So this looks like having workshops like this, events both in person and online. They have a lot going on in San Francisco right now because that's where I'm based out of, but I have plans to take them over the world. We do like design challenges, workshops, content, and more. So hopefully y'all can gain something, practical skills, and also projects for your portfolio and making friends along the way and getting your next job or getting promoted or finding your next passion. I see Sydney, Atlanta in the chat. Amazing. See more buddies joining on LinkedIn. Awesome. Peru and Canada. Awesome. Wow, we have like
Very
four
cool.
continents covered right now, worldwide. Yeah, so with further ado, oh, yeah, I'm also Grace. I did design buddies, content creation, and I'm also a UX designer. I see Toto is also from the Bay Area. Amazing. We have a lot of events going on. And also we have another event with Glyph Design Buddies at IDEO happening in San Francisco on March 12th, Tuesday at 5 p.m. So don't miss out. It's free to join, so make sure to submit that. And without further ado, I'll kick it off to our buddies at Glyph.
Awesome. Excited to be doing this workshop with everyone. I'll get started by sharing my screen. So welcome to our workshop on creating 3D art and designs in seconds. And huge shout out to Grace and Design Buddies for the constant support and helping us out. Our mission at Glyph is to make it as easy as possible for designers to create 3D art without the steep learning curve. Whether you're a seasoned designer or you're just starting up, we're hoping that our workshop is going to help show you how to really effortlessly transform your 2D designs, whether it's images, vectors, or sketches, into really breathtaking 3D renders that can elevate your portfolio and really impress people with your brand new capabilities. So as we mentioned, we're Rishi and Shahil, and what's kind of cool about this is we're excited to show you how to make some kind of beginning creations with Glyph, whether that's logos or interesting renders with different textures like fur or particle systems, using text, making different logos. But we also have some brand new features that we shipped about an hour and a half ago. So this workshop, you guys are going to be some of the earliest people on this journey with us in trying out the newest version of our tool and some of the new capabilities. So I'm really excited for Reach to kind of take it over, show how you can make logos, typography, iconography, abstract shapes, and really cool 3D scenes and 3D renders as well. So if everyone wants to go to glyf.space, glyf.space, or go to the Figma plugin, which is linked in our presentation under 3D design assets. I'll let Rishi take it away from here and get started with the workshop.
Thanks, Shahil. Yeah, I'm super excited to kind of show you guys what we've been building at Glyf, especially some new features that we shipped, like Shahil said, just like about an hour ago. All right. So can you guys see my screen? Awesome. There we go. Okay, cool. You guys can see my screen, right, Shahil?
Yep, we can.
Awesome. So this is Glyf. This is kind of with no design on it, kind of just like the starting point for Glyph. So in the center over here, you have a canvas with Glyph, and you can add basic shapes, like you can add triangles, circles, squares, you can add images, you can add vector files, and then you can even start painting. And you know, this canvas works really similarly to how any kind of 2D graphic design canvas would work. So I can move shapes around, I can position and rotate them, and I can kind of compose a scene together. So an easy way to get started with Glyph is to actually just start with our Figma plugin. So I'm actually going to go over and hop over to Figma. This is a demo file where I have, you know, a few different assets in Figma, and I have a vector file over here that's kind of this basic blue flower. So to connect my vector file from Figma to Glyph, it's actually super simple. All I have to do is go up here to plugins, click on plugins, and you can see it's recently saved here for me, but if I want to find it, all I have to type in is Glyph 3D. And you'll see in the community, there's Glyph 3D design assets, and I can just click run. So what this does is it opens up kind of this little dialog box so that we can go ahead and select our design and connect it with Glyph. You'll see that if I don't have a design selected, it won't let me copy and paste it to Glyph. But once I select this kind of basic SVG, I can then go ahead and copy the SVG, and it directly opens Glyph. So this was an earlier project I was working on. If you've been using Glyph before, it'll kind of save your previous projects. I can go ahead and clear that canvas, and then click here where it says click here to paste SVG from Figma, and it adds that vector file directly to Glyph. So as I was showing you guys earlier, Glyph 2D canvas works really similarly to kind of any basic graphic design app. So I can go ahead and scale this up. I can change kind of some basic attributes about it, like I can change the fill, and I can change the color. Then I can also change the opacity, so I can kind of lower or increase the opacity to kind of get some transparency in my scene. I liked that blue color, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back to kind of a basic blue, maybe something like that. Or actually, let's go a little bit darker. Yeah. And then I can go ahead and add more items to the scene, but I just want to get started with rendering out this like basic blue flower. So this is how I kind of set up my scene in the center with the canvas. And when I have a scene that I want to render into 3D art, all I do is go over here to the left to the style settings. So the first thing I want to do is give some context to the style. So you'll see here in this little tip, it wants me to describe the color and maybe the subject. For basic shapes like this, I can just kind of get started by clicking this button over here, which will auto-generate some context about the color. So you see it's loading some context. It says it's blue, and then there's a gray background. And that should suffice for kind of our first render. Then I can go ahead and select a style. So if I click over here, you'll see a drop-down of about 10 different styles. The first one is general, and this is just kind of for general high-quality 3D rendering. But then after that, we have 9 really specific styles. So for rendering glass, particle effects, rocks, cloth simulation, the ability to render fur, kind of an inflated balloon effect, some foliage and like floral flowers, a holographic effect, and then lastly, plastic. So let's get started by selecting one of the more specific styles. So I'll select glass. And then I have some advanced settings down here, but let's just kind of see with the basic settings what we get first. When I select my style, I've entered my prompt and I've kind of positioned my 2D design in the scene. I can go ahead and click render. And what it's doing here is it's taking into account the style of the scene, so that's the color, and then it's also taking into account the composition of the scene, and it's rendering that as blue-gray glass. And that's kind of the exact process we want to go through. We want to make sure Glyf is taking into account your artistic representation, so your color, your composition, your contours to render some glass. So this one rendered some glass in the style of that flower. It didn't match the contours as well as I would want it to, so I'm going to increase the contour by just increasing the contour strength, and that should ideally give us a better wrap. And then I can remove maybe this color because I just wanted to focus on the blue section for now. So I'll go ahead and click render new variation here, and this is going to basically take into account the changes I made on the left to render a new variation in the center. You'll see that like as I'm rendering a new variation, it'll tell me kind of when the model is loading, maybe when the style is loading, and then a percentage to go ahead and see like how long it's taking to complete it. So while that's loading, I can talk a bit about the styles on the left and the advanced controls. The style strength will control kind of the intensity of the selected style. So this will control whether there's like more glass effect or less glass effect. The contour strength, as you saw, is going to try to get it closer to that result. It's not fitting the result really well, so I could actually go back to the canvas and then maybe make this a bit bigger, or maybe I'll refresh my link and maybe repaste this directly from Figma and use the original asset. So what I did here was I kind of restarted and repasted and used the kind of deeper color. And let's see if we can get closer to the style with that. So I'll type blue, pick glass again, and then I will go ahead and keep these settings and then click render. You can work with kind of other assets as well, right? So you can work with more complex SVGs that have more layers, or you can work with images and use that as the background. And I'll kind of show you a few of the different tools that we play around with after we kind of get to a starting point that we really like. Awesome. So I think this should ideally be more close to what we're looking for. Yeah, awesome. So it's creating and representing the contours. And I think the big switch there was I just had to make it a little bit bigger in the scene. And you can see that it's creating kind of these nice glass refractions. If I want to change styles and kind of see what this looks like in different styles, I can just go ahead and go to the dropdown and select a different style. So I'll select Rocky in this case. And then I can go ahead and click render a new variation. And it'll keep kind of the same composition and the same color palette, but then it'll render a new variation with a different style. So it's gonna start loading, it's gonna make sure it loads the correct style, and then it should render a different variation. Great, so it rendered kind of a similar design, similar color palette, but more in the style this time of this high quality rocky surface, but still on the same background color. So that's how we would iterate with very basic designs with Glyph. I can remove the background from this. I can download the image to kind of go ahead and use it in a different design, or I can clear the canvas to get back to my 2D settings. Some other tools we have, including vectors, are the ability to start painting on the canvas. So I can start just click paint mode and start painting around the scene by dragging my mouse. I can go over here to the top and switch to different paint brushes. So I can switch the color of the paintbrush. I can switch the brush size to make it thicker or thinner. And then what's nice is that after I've kind of started adding elements to my scene, I can go ahead and click on those elements to move them around and adjust some attributes about them. So maybe for this one, I'll fill it in, and then I can change its opacity. I can change the color as well. So I can change this from red to blue. And you can see I can kind of use these tools to really simply start kind of composing a scene. I'll go ahead and delete some of those, and maybe let's look at a different example from a different vector. Awesome. So actually this time, maybe we can even look at an image. I can upload an image of a design. So over here, I should have some like basic graphic designs that I can work with. Here's a really interesting graphic design, and it's kind of this purple flower. When I add an image to the scene, I can really easily go to the right here and set it as the background image, so it takes up the entire scene. And I think the main thing I want to render here is kind of this purple flower. And I want to render it as like a well-lit plastic material. So I'll go ahead and select this, change this to purple plastic, change the style to plastic, and then I'll go ahead and click render. You'll see that like with Glyph, you can upload different pieces of media and compose them in different ways to kind of put together these simple renders in design, and then quickly change context between different kinds of materials. So this one's uploading the image right now, and then it should ideally load the style and then render it out. If you want to change kind of the render times, you can reduce the number of render steps over here. But lower render steps yields a bit lower of a quality level, and then higher render steps allows you to have higher quality results, but at a stage where it's reducing the kind of time, or it's increasing the time it takes. Okay, this one might have got stuck, so let me refresh it and try again. Maybe I'll clear the canvas and resize it to be different. I can try a different graphic design. Let's try this one over here and then resize it up. And then we can put purple. And actually for this case, I want to get out of the Figma plugin. So I'm just gonna go back to, I'm gonna delete this. Normally when you kind of go directly from the website, you won't see that button where it pops up the Figma plugin. And then I'm gonna select the style. So I'll actually select puffy in this case, and then click render. And let's see how it completes that. Awesome, so it's loading the model. It'll then go ahead and load the style, and then it'll apply that style to the image. And there were other elements in that image because that was someone else's graphic design, but I think the point I wanted to showcase is that like using images, you can also add designs with certain styles to it. And that's kind of the most basic way to use Glyph, is to kind of use that to create like the contours around edges and create some designs based off of certain colors and styles in 3D with high quality lighting. But there's also kind of more of an advanced way that we've been working on, which allows us to kind of layer certain capabilities so that you can put a scene and composite a scene together in one place. So maybe I'll go ahead and get ready to move on to some of the more advanced capabilities. Let me showcase that over here. All right, so what I was showing you guys was more for if you're using certain designs, such as the SVGs, the images, to go ahead and render these kind of high quality individual renders. But what if we wanted to kind of compose the designs together so that we can create kind of more of a composition, something that's using multiple materials and multiple render passes to get to an ideal result? And that's what I'll go ahead and show you guys next. So I'll go back to design.glyph.space and just reload the page. You'll see that it kind of keeps my original design from the previous state. So if you're iterating on something, then you'll be able to kind of see that happen over time. And then I'll delete this object and then go ahead and get started with a new design. So I wanted to create something similar to what we're just showcasing here, which is a gray background on a photo studio with some cloth simulated and a rendered Nike logo over it. So we can kind of break that down into 3 different steps. So let's go back over to Glyph, and we can get started by first making the photo studio with maybe that little pedestal. So I want to set the background color of the photo studio first. We'll make that a bit darker of a gray, and then I'll add a basic shape as the pedestal. So I'll add this rectangle. I'll go ahead and lower it a bit in the scene, maybe make it a bit more narrow, adjust it, and then raise the height. And then I'll also change the color to be a bit of this lighter blue. Awesome. And now that I have that, I can go ahead and provide some basic context for the scene. So I'll say a pedestal in a photo studio. And I'll be a bit more clear. I'll say a blue pedestal in a photo studio. And I can either use the general style, but because I know I kind of want the pedestal to have that photo studio lighting, I'll use plastic as it has kind of that high quality studio lighting reference. And then I will go ahead and render that pedestal. And this is the first pass of what I'm creating. So I'm creating kind of the base of the scene, the kind of background of the scene that has like the original lighting of the scene, and it has the ability to kind of influence the rest of my generation down the line. So I have this basic, oh, this one's pretty good. I like it. It has kind of some separation of the foreground and the background over here. It casts a nice shadow, and then it creates the pedestal. I'm going to go ahead and save this one. So I'll just click download. If I want to kind of create a different variation of that to see if there's something I like better, I can just go ahead and click render a new variation, and it'll try kind of making a different iteration of that. So let's go ahead and see if it makes something we like better. I was pretty happy with the first result, so I'll go ahead and use that most likely. But if it creates something that feels, a little bit better to us, we can go ahead and use that as well. And that's where the process is a bit iterative, where you're kind of deciding between which direction you want to let the AI go through, but you're ideally in control of the overall composition of the scene. So in this case, that one's pretty nice too. I think if I was to kind of look at them side by side, I think that the first one had I liked how the shadow was to the right side, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with the first one. So I can go ahead and clear the canvas, and then I'm gonna actually delete this canvas and get started with a fresh canvas, but iterate on our previous design. So to do that, I'll go ahead and go over here to upload an image. I'll select our most recently rendered image and click open, and you'll see that it's added to the canvas. Like I showed you before, we're gonna wanna make this the actual background. So I'll click on the image, and then I'll go over here to this little computer screen that says set image as background. And when it does that, then now we're able to kind of iterate on top of this canvas. So the next step I wanted to create, which was in our slide, was maybe some sort of cloth over it. I liked this one where I had the cloth simulation kind of in the air as well. So let's add some element of cloth to the scene to kind of tie together some of the design. So because the cloth is kind of an abstract shape, I could use, a basic shape to do it, but I feel like that will be kind of rigid. So I'm going to go ahead and actually create a drawing. I'm going to enter paint mode, and then I'm going to try to drape some cloth over this plastic setting. So maybe I'll start, and I'm not the best drawer, so bear with me. I'll start over here and kind of drape some of this cloth and then bring it back around the top. Awesome. Okay, that looks pretty decent. So I'll exit paint. I'll click on that. I want this cloth to be filled in. I don't want to kind of just be the outline. So I'll go ahead and fill that shape and drape that maybe more over the center, maybe lower it a bit. I think black looks pretty good. We can go ahead and obviously change the color over here, but I think for the design I want to go for, I'm going to go with black. I can also kind of resize this a bit if I want. So maybe I'll make it a bit shorter or a bit less wide, but then a bit taller at the top. And then I can click away. What's really cool is that like now that when I enter my description, I'll say black cloth draped in a photo studio. Photo studio will kind of help it get some of the context of the lighting of the scene, and draped should ideally kind of help showcase some of the physics of how it's kind of falling over. And then I'll go ahead and select a style that's specific to cloth. So here's the cloth simulation style. And then because I don't want to turn the whole scene into a cloth simulation, I just want to turn this black piece. I'll go over here and select composite mode. And what composite mode is going to do, you'll see, is it highlights just that piece that we want to render. Like Shahil mentioned, we shipped this feature about an hour ago. So there's still some stuff we're working out with it, but I think we really like the fact that it allows people to get iterative with their renders. And I'm going to make the contour strength a little bit less so that it's able to take some creative freedom with how it's rendering the cloth. And then I'll go ahead and click render. And this should ideally create the second pass of the design we want to create. And right now we have 9 styles that are very specific and one more general style, but we want to be able to add kind of styles for different material use cases, maybe different visual styles for effects you want to overlay onto your scene, so that as we're iterating on this process, we're able to kind of create better and better results. So you'll see that like it kind of conflicts over here at the edge with the plastic, and that's actually something we're working on and solving right now, is how to make kind of the composition better. But it did create the cloth overall. I can either go ahead and re-render this into a different variation to see what I like better, or I can go ahead and maybe adjust the design. So I think I'm going to adjust the design first. I'm going to lower it a bit. So I'm going to just get out of composite mode, lower it past that highlight, and then I'm going to go ahead and re-enter composite mode and then regenerate the design. So I will go ahead and click render, and then ideally it's a bit lower now, and I'm kind of able to control directly how I want the elements in the scene to work. I think that's, one of the biggest frustrations about using AI is, and we're still working on this, but is the fact that, you kind of give away some of the artistic control to the model, but we're trying to help, artists regain some of that and how they're iterating with AI by being able to control the color, the composition, the contours, and, the quality eventually as well. This one's a bit better. It still has that edge, but I think that's, going to suffice for now. And maybe I can clean that up in Photoshop later, or, down the road, Glyphs will be better at blending that together. So I'll download this image, I'll clear the canvas, and then I'm going to restart. So I'll delete the entire canvas. I'm going to turn composite mode off so I can see things more clearly. I'm going to upload an image, which is my previous render, and I'm going to set this as the background. And this flow ideally will be a bit faster next week or the week after. We'll just kind of have a button that lets you auto add the image back into the canvas. Great. So I think the last step was I wanted to add some sort of logo design on top. So I liked this red Nike logo. I think I like the glass effect a bit more because it adds just a little bit of variation in the scene, and they're all kind of lit the same way. So I'll go ahead and go back to the design. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. I'll go back to the design. I'll add an SVG in. So I will add in the Nike logo, and then I'll position that in the scene. So you'll see that it's black right now. For vectors that are kind of just like one solid fill, you can go ahead and just remanipulate the color in Glyph. So I'll make it a bright red. Then I want to make this a bit bigger, and then maybe have it sit somewhere overlapping slightly with the cloth in the center, and then click out of it. So because I want to create a glass effect, first thing I'm going to do is obviously provide some context. So I'll say red glass, and then I'll switch over to the glass material. But you'll see that because it's glass, I want it to have some of the elements of the scene behind it, some refraction. So what I'll do is I'll actually change the opacity down so that we're able to see some of that background color. I think 60 might be good because it'll bring out some of the black over here. And I want to see a little bit of this refraction in the scene. So I'll go ahead and set the Nike logo there. And then because I just want to render the Nike logo, I'll click composite mode again, and you'll see that Glyph is able to kind of identify directly what you're adding on top. And I'll go ahead and render that as red glass. So I'll click render, and that should essentially pull together the original design, which is the cloth and the pedestal, along with the red Nike logo on top that has the mask that correctly tells it where to be positioned, all in the style of glass. And we might see some of that edges that need to be blended together, but I really want to see if it creates that refraction that I can see behind the Nike logo of the actual cloth. So let's see what the final result is. This is pretty good. I can see kind of the refraction of the cloth behind the actual Nike logo. The edges need to be improved, but again, we shipped this an hour ago, and I think that's one of our next big goals is to kind of fix some of these compositing passes so that it looks a lot smoother and combined in the scene. But yeah, this is how you would go ahead and create something like what we showcased in the design. And you can see that if I go back here, it's not the exact same as what we created over here. It's not the exact same as what we created over there, but Glyph provides you a level of specificity, a level of kind of control that you'll struggle to get from other AI tools. And ideally, we're kind of working on providing that level of quality that you'd get from high quality 3D rendering software as well, but with the ease of kind of working with a tool similar to Figma, Canva, or Photoshop. Yeah, that's my more complex example. How are we doing on time, Shahil? If we have more, I can go ahead and showcase maybe some more environment design or different kind of use cases for the canvas.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Rish. I think we're pretty good on time. So if you want to do one more example, go ahead, and then we can get into more open workshop time.
Awesome. So I guess I'll show you guys what I'm thinking about doing next. Last night when I was building this, I was playing around with kind of rendering environments. So I have some different examples here, I believe. let me look at some. This one was pretty fun. I created this sand dune environment, and I think it'd be fun to do. I haven't recreated this one yet, so we'll do it together on the fly, but I think it'd be fun to recreate something like this and maybe composite an object into it. So let's go ahead and start from scratch. Um, so for this one, I want to set this sand dune in a blue sky. So I'll go ahead and go to my background color. I think this blue kind of aligns more with baby blue sky. That might be a bit too harsh. I'm going for a bit more of a realistic uh, result, so I'll go ahead and turn it down a bit. That looks pretty good. And then I want to create some of the sand, so I'll enter paint mode. I'll get started with my brush. I can always edit the result later. I think that's pretty sandy. And then I'll go ahead and paint. So I think the sand dune, it's kind of rolling some hills, and then kind of level out at some point. And oh, actually, I should have looped that together. So let me go ahead and delete that, and I'll recreate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of create some of these rolling hills. I'm bringing the cursor all the way around because I want to turn this into a fill object, and I'm connecting it over here. So I'm going to exit and I'm going to grab this. Let me just make it a little smaller so everyone can see it. I'll go ahead and fill the shape, and you see it's kind of got that sandy look to it. I think the color is a bit too saturated for sand, so maybe I'll just go play around with different colors. That, I guess that's more saturated, but that feels a little bit better to me. So I'll just, yeah, okay, I think that's what I want. So I have this kind of basic sand shape, so I'm gonna just go ahead and expand it. And then I'm gonna try to render this and create kind of a sand dune effect or environment. So because I'm creating an environment, it's more of a general thing, and I just wanted to have that 3D lighting and shading. I'll go over here and select the general style, and then I'll go over here in my prompt and I'll write a desert with sand dunes and a light blue sky. Something like that. I think the style strength is good for now. The contours, I'll actually turn it down because I kind of wanted to just pull more from the color and less maybe from this edge over here that I messed up a bit. And render steps, I'll keep at 30 for now to see where it goes. And let's kind of create our first iteration. So this is kind of a really easy way to use paint tools to create environments. And that can be really helpful for if you're trying to set a certain object in kind of an environment for some sort of theme you're telling or some sort of kind of design you're creating. In the earlier one, we were creating, oh, this is pretty good. I don't know what this object is over here. So I'm gonna maybe increase the contour strength and try that again to reduce that. And then maybe I'll decrease the style strength a bit to kind of get it to even out. I'll exit and then render that again. But yeah, what I was kind of mentioning before is that as we're building that iterative process, and especially as Glyph gets better at blending the edges well, applying different lighting passes to make things look like they're in the same scene. I like the paint tool a lot to get started with kind of rendering really basic environments. I can't seem to get rid of that little blob, so maybe I'll just render a new variation, and that'll kind of try a different kind of example to go ahead and do it. Or in my prompt, yeah, my prompt looks fine. So I think I just need to try a different variation to get the result I'm looking for. And that's what's kind of a pretty iterative process. Okay, this is looking pretty good to me. It took a good creative decision with my kind of mess up over here. I like that the sky is like a nice light blue gradient. And yeah, my whole point was that as you're creating these environments and settings, the paint tool is a really easy way for you to go ahead and like create a basic environment to start setting objects within there. So I'm going to save this one. And then I'm going to go ahead and clear the canvas, and I will delete the canvas, and then let's get started with this next iteration. And let's set it as the image background. Okay, so I think it'd be kind of fun to render some sort of like obelisk or something in the desert if I'm making a sci-fi scene. So maybe either I'll use one of my vectors or I'll paint on that. If I go to one of my vectors, I think I have some basic vectors I can use that as an example. This could be kind of fun if I'm making a poster, as I add kind of the year and I render some sort of poster with that. So maybe I'll add 2024 in the center, or maybe on the horizon. Um, and then I will change the color so that it's more of a metallic gray. And maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And I want to kind of set this to be in composite mode. I'll turn the style strength back up. I want this to fit to its contour, so I'm gonna actually turn the contours back up to 60. And this is because I'm using the general mode, I'm kind of just trying different things. So I'm gonna try something like chromat, or I'll say um, chrome metal, maybe. Something so I can get that kind of metallic desert look. Obelisk. How do you spell obelisk? Let's see. Obelisk. Or maybe I'll just say statue in the desert. So I'll give it some lighting context as well. I'm curious to see if it creates some of that kind of reflection on the chrome. So actually, maybe I'll say reflective to be more specific. And then I will go ahead and I'll keep the render steps at 30 for now. If we can increase it later to see if that helps with the quality, and then click render. Yeah, this is just kind of some of the fun parts about Glyph, which is, as we're getting better at controlling AI and showing it how to create high quality outputs, we're also able to kind of use it to kind of think about new ideas and to use the canvas and the artistic controls we have to kind of build new ideas from there. So let's go ahead and see if it renders something pretty good. That's pretty good. I think the blending still needs some work, but it's taking in the refractions of kind of the desert lighting and some of the sand. You can kind of see the sand refraction here. It could be a bit better, so maybe I'll increase the render steps to see if that helps. Sometimes the contour strength, if it's too high, like I added, could make the edges a little bit harder. And then I'll say maybe be a bit more descriptive. So purely reflective chrome metal might be a bit more helpful in making it a bit more shiny. So let's go ahead and render this again. I'm gonna go ahead and just exit out and click render. The reason I kind of don't click render a new variation when I made that change is because when you render a different variation, the AI kind of goes and thinks of something completely new. So it won't take these small tweaks into account that you made. It'll kind of just go into a new direction, which will still be in the style of kind of chrome metal in the desert. But if we're trying to see if we can kind of nudge it closer to the result we want, it's better to kind of exit out and go back and re-render. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think this is what maybe we should add chrome metal as a specific style. I think this one's doing a better job of blending it as I add more iterations. But the chrome style is maybe not getting to the exact spot I want it to be. So I could also try something different. Like I can maybe select the object. I'll just go out of composite mode so I can see my design more clearly. Maybe I'll go with the original kind of purple, and I'll set it a bit lower, and then I'll switch the styles up. So we can try something like fur. This is quite an abstract poster, but I think it might be fun. And we can just put some context on the color, go ahead and reselect composite mode, and then render that. And you can see that we can kind of like really quickly move through ideas. I don't know if rendering purple fur in the desert is a design that's particularly useful for me, but it's helping me kind of understand a bit better about the systems, the level of control I have, and then the ability to kind of compose that all together. So yeah, I think that's a part of the fun about the process, is that like as we're breaking down the barriers to 3D rendering, we're able to kind of add these different elements to kind of compose them in one scene. Um, but yeah, that's how we're layering different items with Glyph to kind of create and compose different designs.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rish, for that. This is a beautiful creation right here. The fur and the desert giving me very Dune 2 vibes for coming out, I guess, on Friday. So a little bit topical there. Yeah. So just to kind of wrap everything up, I'll share my screen once again. So on the screen right now is the tiny URL for our Glyph workshop, which is the link to the slides. Hopefully you can see that here. Yeah, sorry, Rish, are you able to see the slides or?
I'm not able to see the slides.
Okay, we'll try that again.
I can go.
Okay, yeah, would you mind sharing the slides?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull them up. Great. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah, just on slide 6 is a link to a submission form. I've just dropped it also in the chat on LinkedIn. And so if you could just go to the next slide. We're just going to be spending the next 20 minutes or so doing a live working session. And anyone who submits to this form, I'll kind of just pull up some slides and show what people are creating right now live and how people are creating it, etc. But to give you kind of a reminder of what Grace was mentioning at the beginning, we have an active 3D design and 3D art challenge. So if you want to participate, there's a link to that in the slides. We'll have cash prizes for creations as well as like number of creations. And if you tag us, you get bonus points and everything. And then we're also going to be having a showcase at IDEO with anyone who submits their creations in the challenge. So that should be a really interesting challenge. I think we've already gotten 40 or 50 people that have submitted things. So I know everyone at IDEO is really excited about it. We'd also love to get your thoughts and feedback on the tool. Feel free to send that in our design challenge form, or if you'd like to chat with us directly about how you feel about the tool, what you're making these days, or if we can be helpful at all on the design side, connecting you to maybe design agencies or other opportunities. Feel free to book time. That's like my personal calendar link, and we'd be happy to chat with you whenever and would deeply appreciate any feedback you can offer. And then I've also linked our LinkedIn accounts and our emails. If you ever have any questions, run into any challenges, we'd love to chat with you directly. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So yeah, I guess right now we'll spend the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We'll be on the live stream. Feel free to create and submit to the form. Yeah, back on slide 6. And yeah, so I dropped the submit button into the chat. And yeah, happy creations. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask it in the LinkedIn chat, and we'll be online to respond. But can't wait to see what you create. Yeah, the slide link is tinyurl.com/glyph workshop. So if I just resent that into the LinkedIn chat, hopefully if you paste that into your browser, that'll work. And the submission form is tinyurl.com/glyph submit. So awesome. Yeah, feel free to submit to the submission form and participate in our design challenge. And yeah, we'll be on. So if you have any questions, just let us know. Awesome. So I guess while we're waiting, maybe just as like ASMR, Rishi, if you want to like create something new, I guess.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's
Yeah,
go for it.
let's do it. And maybe we can do like on mute and let people work or tune into what you're creating as well.
Yeah, I saw some people already started creating some stuff. So I'm definitely curious to see what people are going to be creating. But yeah, I'll mute myself and maybe just start creating something as well.
Great. So we're getting a couple questions from Eunice and from Silu about how we judge the creation. So we're going to have two categories. One is our judging criteria based on art direction. So just how you're directing the scene and having the best, whoever has the best 2D like inputs as well as like art input. Whether that's the most creative image, vector, or 3D model, and then how you're actually art directing and putting together a scene and a creation. So if you're layering multiple things or you're creating something in a really striking way, that's how we're going to be judging it. But most of the other half of our winners are actually going to be based on number of submissions that you create and how you're iterating over time across uh, across each of those submissions. So it's the combination of like quantity and I guess a little bit subjective quality, but we'll have 5 designers and artists kind of all picking our favorite creations and then announcing the winner on March 11th. Yeah. So if anyone has creations, feel free to submit them. We're also answering any questions on the LinkedIn chat and live stream. But yeah, feel free to participate in our design challenge. It's linked on the slides and the submission form. Book time with us. I have my calendar link on slide 7 of the slides from this. And then, of course, connect with us on LinkedIn, email us whenever. Happy to help. And yeah, once some submissions start rolling in, we can maybe present them a little bit. What were you creating, Rishi?
There we go. At first I made this kind of nighttime render, and then I rendered this stack of blocks, and then I created a render of a drawing. I want to also try to do some like graphic design where I use the composite mode as the first entry. So I'm gonna find an image that would be good for that and showcase that as well. All right.
It looks like there's still about 35 people on the stream. So yeah, we can keep going. Awesome. Getting our first submissions rolling in. Oh, nice. That looks good. Okay, so we've gotten a question from Stephanie saying, super useful. Are you guys thinking of expanding this to include 3D exports?
Yeah, we are, for sure. I think our first goal is to make, all the kind of quality on 2D images really great, so kind of blending and seaming the scene together. But after that, I think kind of the natural progression is to go to animations next, and then to 3D models. So I think that's all kind of a part of the flow we're going after. So hopefully soon. But yeah, that's definitely on our roadmap. Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So it looks like there's still 30 people on the stream. We can end it right now. And once again, if you want to go to tinyurl.com/glyph workshop, we have a lot of good info there. The link to the tool, the Figma plugin, a submission form for our 3D art challenge. And if you want to book calendar time with either of us or connect with us on LinkedIn, we have all of the relevant links there. So I think maybe it's best to just call it now and let everyone get the rest of their afternoons and evenings. But just wanted to thank everyone for coming. This was our first workshop, and we just shipped a lot of the features that you're using like earlier today. So you were the first people in the world really to try it out, and we're honored that you're joining us so early in our journey. So thanks, and hope everyone has a great week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Cool. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a nice day. Can't wait to see your submissions.
Thanks, Grace. Have a good one.
Bye.